Hey all, Bart with Bicycle Rider YouTube. Asking, and I get asked a question a lot, would you pay more for components or more for a frame? A lot of people say, components can easily be swapped out, a frame can't. There's some truth in that, but components aren't easily swapped and they're very expensive to start with. If you buy a high-end Grupo system to start with, like what's on this bike, this is a Diamondback Release 3. This bike comes stock with really nice components. We're talking about a full Shimano build. So I'm talking about Shimano cranks, Shimano cassette, Shimano rear derailleur, Shimano brake cables and hydraulic cables, Shimano XT brakes, Shimano XT shifters. This bike, if you know about Shimano XT, it's premium. I do like SRAM products. I ride a lot of SRAM stuff. But Shimano is that next level in form, functionality, just the feel of a Shimano. I don't think you can beat it. They've been in the game for a long time, and they do things right. So I say spend more money on your components, because most of these frame designers have designed a good frame. Luckily, with the Diamondback, I get an aluminum frame, but it's got what's called a horse 4-link suspension. Diamondback calls this their level link suspension. So I get best of both worlds with this bike. I get a really nice aluminum frame with a good build. For reference, this is about a $4,000 bike. This is June of 2022, so prices are subject to change on that. It's hard to rival what Diamondback's putting together for $4,000, but this video is not really a Diamondback video. This video is about, should you spend more on a frame with less components, or should you spend more on components and maybe less on the frame? A lot of people want a carbon fiber frame. With hydroformed aluminum now, you can build it super stiff, super light, and you can manipulate the tubes to absorb vibrations. So believe me, I do love carbon fiber. I race a carbon fiber full suspension Epic, and it's great for racing. But for everyday trail riding like I'm doing out here, I mean, there's a lot of rocks. You fall sideways on a rock out here, and I'd rather have an aluminum frame than a carbon frame hitting a sharp rock. Definitely don't cheap out on the dropper post. Dropper posts, we're anywhere between, let's say, 300 and 600 bucks. But KS Lev is a nice dropper post, and you want a nice thumb button here. So this is called the Southpaw lever from KS. So it's a great dropper post. Don't cheap out on your dropper post, or you'll regret it later. If you can buy a bike that already has a dropper post built in, it's great. Let me talk about the aluminum frames too. A lot of people see this and see the cables on this bike are exposed. That's a good thing if you ask me. I work on bikes. I'm a bike mechanic. So sometimes when you have to cut a brand new pair of hydraulic brakes to re-bleed them so you can run it through a frame, it's a real pain in the butt, adds a lot of expense, adds a lot of work. It's nice when you can just zip tie your pre-bled brake cables and shift cables to the frame externally. If you're out and about and you're on a bike trip and you had to run down to the bike shop and snag a brake lever kit or something, most of that stuff is coming pre-bled. If you have to, like I said, run that through your frame, you've got to cut it, re-bleed it. It's a pain in the butt. A lot of bike shops are slammed right now. Biloxi Bicycle Works is slammed. Someone comes in there on an emergency and says, hey, can you mount these new brakes to my bike? I messed up a brake line. It's an emergency at that point for everybody, because it does, even with the right equipment, it takes a lot to bleed brakes. When you have something you can run externally, it takes that job from a, hey, no man, we're gonna have to schedule that, to, yeah, give us a half an hour, get a cup of coffee, come back and pick up your bike. So there's definitely something to be said about externally routed cables rather than internal. Of course, internal just looks clean, it's premium, it's nice, but if you have a problem, believe me, it's not as easy to deal with as an external cable routing. Wheels. It's important to know what kind of wheels you're getting on your bike. A lot of companies will, I don't want to say cheap out on wheels, but they know that's going to be one of the biggest and first upgrades you do is a wheel set. Sometimes that wheel set, good set of carbon fiber wheels is $1,500 to $2,000. Add that to the price of your bike when you're buying the bike. aluminum, like on special or on the Diamondback here, you know, they've got the Blanchard wheel set mated with XT hub. So an XT hub is a really tight engagement hub. You can hear it clicking in there. It makes a real difference when you're going over rock gardens, starting up a hill. It's just nice to have a premium hub. Definitely look into the hubs when you're buying your bike. This aluminum wheel will go for a wider pinned wheel. I believe this is a 28 internal width wheel. So I mean, Diamondback, like I said, this is not a Diamondback video, but Diamondback puts a lot of bang to the buck for their bikes. It's hard to find just this Grupo set and a good wheel set for $4,000. Here you're getting a whole bike out of it. So if you ask me, spend more on the components, less on the frame. You're not really saving that much weight on a carbon fiber frame. Now, if you are a cross-country racer, someone that's just looking to race, that's a little bit different story. But most people just want a good trail bike, you know, one bike that does multiple things right. And if you get a good Grupo set, you're not going to have problems on the trails with missed shifts. You're not going to have problems with brakes. Things are going to work good. Most of these frame manufacturers are building good frames, so trust the manufacturer. Do a little research. When you're doing your research, just don't look at rake and trail and angle numbers. You know, don't get the most extreme numbers, because then those bikes are good at whatever that designer made it for, not everything. Get something in those middle ranges, something that works at climbing, something that is efficient, something that is nice in the tighter sections, but something that you can open up and get some speed out of. Sometimes you don't want the slowest bike in your group just because it can maybe have the most suspension travel. Those guys are getting beat up and back of the pack, and they're getting worn out before they even hit the top of the mountain. Get you a good trail bike, something with normal numbers. If you have questions about that, hit me up at Bicycle Rider YouTube, call me at the Bicycle Shop, or on GovVelo. That's our online platform. I'm easy to reach. My name is Bart Luther. I'm real, I'm raw. I just took off my helmet, and I don't care if I look goofy for you guys. I want to give you the straight scoop on what I know after 30 years of mountain biking, and what I see now owning a bicycle shop of people coming in thinking they can buy, you know, a lesser expensive bike and upgrade components later. Be careful with that. It gets super expensive. Spend your money once and be done with it. Spend your money on something like this Diamondback Release 3. You get an awesome bike that you're not going to have to do any upgrades to, and you can just ride the heck out of this bike for a long time and get like really good performance out of it. Like I said, any questions, hit me up. If you like what we do on the Bicycle Rider YouTube channel, like and subscribe. That lets, you know, YouTube know you guys are watching us and helps us, you know, continue to do these kind of videos. So I'm out here riding my bike, enjoying it. Figure I'd take a couple minutes and try to answer that question for you guys. All right, thank you.